Well, thank you so much to invite me up here and share today. That was quite a generous introduction. I don't have a tattoo, it's just text stuff that I write on my wrist because my Bible verse changes every time because I can't choose one. But today I really wanted to share about my journey. So when I was 8 years old, I got introduced to high jump, and I was not good at any sport that my parents put me in. But for this particular sport, I just waltzed up to this bar, fell over it, and then I broke the Little Athletics record. And I thought, this is for me. And sometimes as a child, you know when you're not good at something and you're trying hard, then when something comes natural, you take hold of it with both hands. And that's exactly what happened to me when I was 11 years old. At 11 years old, my parents decided to move me from my local school into a Christian school. I was mortified that I'd be the only person starting school that particular class. And as I walked in, I was expecting people to bully me because that's all I'd ever known. I was very different. I was almost 6 foot in year 6. So I was anticipating that I would have to earn my favour and earn my friendships, earn my way into being accepted. And when I walked in, I experienced this love from people, which I had never experienced in my life. I was vulnerable and being so different and being new that when people loved me, not because they knew I was good at sport, not because they knew my personality or my grades, not because they could use me to their own benefit, they just loved me because there was a love that overflowed from them. And that day I got introduced to the gospel as I sat down on a Christian school floor. And I said, I don't know who Jesus is, but this love is more real to me than anything I've experienced in my 11 years. And I decided to start following Jesus. I hadn't grown up around knowing this Christian faith, but I embraced it. Because even at such a young age, you can know what's real and you can know what's false. And I had this knowing that he was real. That's something that has changed the trajectory of my life. And I decided with this big high jump dream that I had from 8 years old to be a 2-meter jumper and to be the best ever, I wanted to partner my faith with that. And I was going throughout high school believing that this big plan of me being an amazing athlete will be for the glory of God. But I didn't really have any friends still that were helping me stay on that path. I'd read the Bible on the bus and I would read about how Jesus' love was so permanent. It was in writing. It was indisputable. And that his love for me was so grand that he would die for me. I thought, wow, this is amazing, but I don't have anybody to share it with. And in year 9, along came a girl who had just been to a CRU camp and just gotten saved radically and was telling everyone about Jesus. And many of you who might have been around Christian schooling know that it's still a mission field. There's not many people that truly believe in there, but having a friend like that just spurred on my faith incredible. And she's actually now planting churches with her husband around New South Wales and has lived an incredible life. Basically, joy in a human form is that particular friend, and anybody who knows her would say the same. But going on throughout my high school journey, there would be another big moment in my life that would change the trajectory. And that was when I was pursuing sport and I wanted to be at the World Junior Championships and the World Youth Championships, and I missed a team. And I was so distraught because I thought that was a part of my plan. Make the junior worlds and then you can make the senior worlds and then I'll be living in Europe and then I'll have an Olympic Games. I had this all blueprint in my brain, and as soon as I didn't reach it, I thought maybe I'm not going to reach any of my goals. And out of fear, I thought, what am I going to do? And my friend, she said, hey, you should just come to this youth camp with me. Don't worry about that competition. And then when I was there, I realized that my joy and my experience of life changes when my center point is on Jesus. It was a foundational time for me. We'd fast forward to when I was 20 years old. I was living in Europe. I had everything that my 8-year-old self could have possibly dreamed of. Had the relationship, had the coach, had the facilities. If you looked at my life from the outside, you would say, this girl has it all. But deep down, I was miserable. I found that I had pursued sport to the most that I could possibly pursue it and still felt a bit empty. And I was in a crossroads of thinking, is it going to get better if I keep on putting my 100% into sports? Or is it going to stay the same? And I puzzled and I thought, why am I feeling the way I am? And I realized in my pursuit of sport, I'd forgotten God. I put him as the side plate, and that the entree and the side plate was God, and then the main meal was high jump. And I realized that was not the way to live. And I decided to follow Jesus wholeheartedly. I left Europe. I left all of those beautiful things behind. And at that point, I actually left behind my sporting dream, because I realized I was more filled with passion and filled with hope in those youth camps and in those school moments with my friend than I was at the highest level of my sport. And that only lasted a few days before I heard the Lord's voice say, Nicola, I want you to go back to sport. And I thought, no, send me somewhere else. I'm done with sport. But he said, do it my way this time. And I realized that rather than trying to do something for God's glory, I wanted to do it with him and partnering with Jesus rather than doing everything in my own strength for him. It changed everything. And we started a ministry, my best friend and I, and we would go on to disciple athletes in showing them what it truly looks like to do sport for God's glory. It was with him. It was with that peace and power and strength. Regardless of how high I jumped or if I would no height, which I did many times in important competitions, my joy was not determined on my identity of sport. My joy was determined on my identity as a child of God. It changed everything. Within 4 years, I went from barely being ranked into the top 100 to being on the Olympic podium. I went from jumping 1 meter 88 to 2 meters 02, and I became the girl that would reach those dreams, that 8-year-old self that I thought, one day I want to be there, actually required me laying down my life and laying down my plans and allowing God to work within me to become the person who would do that. I now have a platform that I don't just try and defend and go for this next Olympics next year. Man, I need to get silver or gold in order to keep this status. Nothing can be taken away or given to me that will increase my joy, because my joy is complete and fixed on what Jesus has already done for me. The challenges that I had faced when it came to bullying or when it came to missing out on teams has actually prepared me in a heart to be able to receive friends and to receive those victories with grace. Like the Opera House, how it has these ups and these downs, the shape is molded through the ups and downs. And today I want to just really encourage you. You're supporting CRU camps, you're supporting these young people having those decisions of encountering God's love. They're old enough to know what's real and what's not. They're old enough to know the highs and lows, regardless if it's been a smooth sailing life or it's been a very, very hard life. But to come in and be an ambassador and be an organization that meets children at the point where they're not a big name or they don't have a lot of fame to their name, and love them will change the trajectory of their life like it has for mine. And now I have an opportunity to really share on Olympic podiums or even with the people that I'm traveling with or at the local athletics ground, which I train at each time. I can share that joy and that hope with Jesus because of people's decisions to share the gospel in schools and to share the gospel within these camps. Like my friend, I've seen how her life was radically changed throughout one camp, and I think each child that has the opportunity to be involved in CRU will have their lives transformed. Even if it's not immediately evident, sometimes trees take time to bear fruit. So that patience of just imparting a seed of eternity can change a child's life like it has for mine. So I want to say thank you to inviting me today, and I hope you enjoy today and support CRU of what they're doing. Thank you.